We also got, I thought Rhea was champion. Rhea is a champion.
He meant leader, not champ.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I did not get to that comment yet. So that was the thing is Rhea was pretty much put out there as the leader. But we also had Damian Priest, who stood there on the apron not too long ago and said that he was the leader when he was having that little banter with Cody Rhodes. So realistically, we don't know who the leader is. I mean, it's an obvious that Rhea is. She's been, pushing all the buttons and leading the way. So it's an obvious that Rhea is. But Damian kind of brought that little bit in of that he was the leader. So it is a 4-on-4 match for both War Games matches this year. It's not 5-on-5. And we thought for a while that we were going to get 5-on-5s. We thought that there would have been an addition to both, to all four teams, basically, the women's and the men's. But they're sticking with the 4-on-4. Which honestly, Cam, your thoughts? Would you prefer a 5-on-5 or do you like the 4-on-4 concept?
I mean, like they can. I mean, either way. I mean, I would prefer. I wanted 5-on-5, but I think they can still produce good matches with either way.
I mean, here's a great comment that they were hoping that would be 5-on-5, so we get Punk or Orton. Do you think we see Punk or Orton?
I think we get both, but not in those matches. Well, Orton probably like if they do 5. I mean, they could still do 5-on-5. I mean, they still got some time left, I guess, but I still think you get Randy Orton coming back, and you definitely are getting CM Punk. That's more than likely. I'd be surprised if you don't get Punk.
I'll say this. I mean, they're in Chicago. And obviously we know Punk's from Chicago. Punk made his debut in Chicago when he was in AEW. And yes, both do have history with Cody Rhodes. Here's my point on the Cody Rhodes Randy Orton history. You go back to WrestleMania 26, their history between each other got squashed there when Orton beat him and Ted in that triple threat match. I mean, if anything, if Punk were to show up, I think there would be so much more of a focus of Cody and Punk. But I think that would be too big of a storyline to have as a short-term thing going into WrestleMania season. I almost feel like that would be an interruption to what we realistically should be getting at WrestleMania, and that is Roman and Cody. At the same time, we are so far away from Roman and Cody. And the question lies is, how are we going to get there? Does Cody win the Rumble again? Does Cody have to do it in Elimination Chamber? Do we even get Cody and Roman? Those questions lie out there. And I don't think doing a Cody and Punk at the Royal Rumble would really suit people. I think that having a short-term story between those two would leave a bad taste in people's mouths. Now, I could see them having Punk come out as like an I'm here type of deal. And then maybe we get the real heat between Punk and Seth facing at WrestleMania. And then we get Cody and Roman. And then somewhere down the line, we get Punk and Cody. But I don't know. That's the good thing about WWE. I'll say this. WWE is leaving the doors open for a lot of stuff to happen. And that's why they've been doing so good lately with everything that they're doing. With everything. So I mean, again, they're leaving the doors open for a lot of things. A lot of things. So we'll just have to see what happens come Saturday. Does Orton show up? Does Punk show up? Do both show up? Do one or the other show up? Or do none? That's one door that's left open. The other thing is it does Priest cash in Money in the Bank? You know, does Damage Control ultimately break up? Does Gunther drop the Intercontinental title? They leave the door open for so many good things. So many good things. And I'm excited to see Survivor Series. Now, I'm not going to see Survivor Series live. I will be at a concert that night, which means all my social medias will be ignored because I will come home that night and watch Survivor Series by my lonesome. And, you know, turn all my notifications on after the pay-per-view at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, got some other comments in the chat before we get into our next and final segment of the night. Gunther will win the Rumble and Cody is winning the Chamber due to Gunther having a visa restriction. Okay. And that would ultimately, I'm guessing that would ultimately lead Gunther for the world title and Cody for the undisputed Universal Championship. And we got the comment, an agreement with you, Cam. Gunther will lose his Intercontinental title at Survivor Series. Again, not opposed to it. But I feel like personally that Sheamus being back in the mix, if he's gonna be doing anything, I feel like we're gonna get Gunther and Sheamus one more time. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. So Cam, we can finally get to this. It's been the build-up. So here's the thing. 3 weeks ago, we put a nice little segment together called Our Top 3 Favorite Feuds of All Time. Now, as I switch gears and pull all my notes out, because I did save my notes. I did. I did not throw them away, which is good because I have a bad habit of throwing some notes away. Okay? So, 3 weeks ago, back on 11/5, this was our rundown for 11/5. So 2 weeks ago, we had plans of doing this segment 2 weeks ago, and we got to Sean, who is usually on with us on the table spot. He is a part of the table spot, but he is away doing a indie show. He's at an indie show tonight. So that's what gave us the opportunity and the open door to do the booming table spot tonight, Worlds Collide, for one. But we got Sean's top 3 favorite feuds and his one honorable mention. Sean's top 3 favorite feuds. Number 1, we'll go from honorable mention to 1. His honorable mention, Thunder Rosa against Britt Baker. His number 3, Kenny Omega against Will Ospreay. His number 2 was John Cena versus Edge. And his number 1 was The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was Sean's list. So Cam, the floor is yours, my friend. Your top 3 favorite feuds. And I know you mentioned off air that you had 2 honorable mentions. So if you would like to start with your honorable mentions first, and then your top 3 favorite feuds of all time. Now, how we'll do this is we'll give our top 3 favorite feuds, and then we will discuss.
Gotcha.
All right.
So now, actually, I have 3 honorable mentions.
Okay, sounds good.
So one of my honorable mentions is Sting versus Christian Cage in TNA. Another one of my honorable mentions is LAX versus Daniels and AJ Styles in TNA. And then my last honorable mention, obviously, and the reason I didn't put this on my top 3 was because, Sean is a perfect example. I know a lot of people, when they think about the top 3 favorite feuds, they would obviously put this on their list. But my last honorable mention is obviously The Rock in Austin in back in the day in the Attitude Era. Now, getting into my top 3 that's on my actual list. At number 3, I have John Cena versus Edge. I thought that feud was absolutely amazing. Probably one of John Cena's best feuds ever. Edge and John Cena, they just kind of they just bounce off of each other really well. The chemistry in that feud was great. The chemistry in the ring was great. They had great matches, great moments. Love that feud. That's some of John Cena's best stuff, I think, he's done throughout his career. At number 2, I've got AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels in TNA. That was back in the days of the 6-sided ring in early TNA days. You had Mr. TNA at that time, AJ Styles, and that was when he had that high-flying style and he was all over the place, and he was amazing. One of the main reasons why I used to watch TNA from back in the day. And then you had Christopher Daniels, the guy who wanted to be Mr. TNA. So their feud was just bad blood every single time, banger matches every single time they stepped inside the six-sided ring. Love that feud. That feud has a special place in my heart, obviously. So great feud. And then my number one is Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle in TNA. At that time, you had Samoa Joe, the Samoan submission machine, who was undefeated. He had never even tasted his own blood. The man was an absolute machine, an absolute monster in TNA, running rampant, and he looked like he could not be stopped. But then you had the Olympic hero, the gold medalist, who won the gold medal with a broken freaking neck, Kurt Angle, come into TNA, and that was freaking amazing. The one thing that's burned in my memory when I think of Kurt Angle and TNA and the Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe feud in TNA was when they first came face to face, and that infamous headbutt that opened up Samoa Joe.
Yep.
That will forever live in my memory for ever and ever. That feud was amazing. Kurt Angle obviously coming out of that feud, being the first man to ever beat Samoa Joe in TNA. Amazing feud. So that is my number one.
All right. So before we get to my list, we do have a list in the chat. We have his number one is Stone Cold versus Vince. Number two, Kenny versus Will Ospreay. Number three, the United Empire versus the Los Ingobernables de Hombros. And then his honorable mentions, Just Five Guys versus House of Torture, Evil versus Naito, Bullet Club versus Gorilla of Destiny, and Okada versus Naito. Not a bad list. Not a bad list at all. All right, so we get to my honorable mention number one. Triple H versus Randy Orton is my honorable mention. All started with Evolution. Triple H turned on Randy when Randy won his first world title, and the story that led all the way up to the WrestleMania 25 match and that epic match that happened at WrestleMania 25. Crazy enough that that pay-per-view was highlighted by Shawn Michaels and Triple H, but who can forget the Triple H Randy Orton match at WrestleMania 25? My number four, as an honorable mention, Bully Ray versus Hulk Hogan in TNA. From foes to friends to family to foes. And the huge build-up storyline that led us to the Aces and Eights. And I watched a 3-hour video the other night on the history of the Aces and Eights. Fucking insane, dude. That story was really good. Really, really good. Yeah, 3 hours.
It was.
It was a good story. Really
Oh,
good
yeah.
how it built up. I wish it would have started off a little better than it did, but once I got to the middle of that video, it made sense. It made sense. My number three. Now we get into my 3-1. My number three is Tommy Dreamer versus Raven in ECW. It was definitely a defining feud for ECW from 1995 to 1997. Tommy Dreamer would continuously lose to Raven until Raven's last match in ECW in 1997, when Tommy Dreamer beat Raven at WrestlePalooza in a loser leaves town match. My number two, an obvious one, pretty much on almost everybody's list, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. Obvious, their first match was back in 1997 at the D-Generation X In Your House pay-per-view for the Intercontinental Championship. They had 3 main event matches at WrestleMania 15, 17, and 19, which led up to Stone Cold's retirement match at WrestleMania 19. The Rock and Stone Cold had 24 total matches together, 2 Royal Rumbles, 6 singles matches, and 16 multi-matches, including tag team matches. And my number one, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels in WWE. Friends that became foes. My favorite match of theirs of all time was their WrestleMania 12 Iron Man match, and they buried their hatchet on January 4th of 2010. January 4th of 2010 on the first Monday Night Raw of that year. So that is mine. I will say this, Cam, your list, amazing. Amazing list. Hey, it's very TNA heavy, but I will say this, some great TNA storylines, especially the AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels. I mean, 2 best friends who were able to go into the ring and just make amazing magic. amazing magic. And your Samoa Joe and your Kurt Angle, just two guys. I mean, we all know about Kurt Angle's story and what he went through personally and what he was going through at that time. Um, but still able to go out and perform. Crazy. Crazy. And John Cena Edge. Great story. I will say this. It's not a feud that you hear a lot about nowadays, but it is definitely a feud that you can never ever forget. Never forget, because that was like the feud. You can take John Cena and Randy Orton, but you can also take John Cena and Edge as literally the top storylines of the ruthless aggression era, leading into the PG era, or whatever you want to call it, the clean WWE era. So definitely a great list. And then we obviously, we agreed on this before we get out of here. One that we did all agree on was the Stone Cold and The Rock. Now, my question lies to you, Cam, and I know I asked this 2 weeks ago, but real quick, were you a Stone Cold guy or were you a Rock guy?
So, well, like I said, because growing up, I think I was a little bit of both, but I always favored The Rock more. People always, ask, what was the moment that you became a wrestling fan, or who was the guy that made you fall in love with professional wrestling? My answer would be The Rock, 100% The Rock. It was The Rock for sure. Like I said, I remember, being a little kid and running around the living room, trying to hit the people's elbow on people and stuff like that. So yeah, it was that's my guy. That was my guy back in the day. Now, when I got a little older, it was Stone Cold, you know. So yeah, but I honestly like both, but honestly, my answer would be The Rock.
Yeah, I was a Rock guy. I was a Rock guy as well. Everybody that I talked wrestling with, in school, and friends that I had outside of school, were all Stone Cold. And I'm like, I'm The Rock. Like, there was just something that they weren't seeing about The Rock that I did. Like, Stone Cold ultimately was what I like to call a babyface heel. He was a babyface heel.
Pretty much.
I mean, he was a babyface in our eyes, but he was a heel.
Right.
You know,
Anti-hero.
if you think of it, you can go back, and around that time we had the NWO as well. So you really got to think, was the NWO the first bad guys to be considered good and fan favorites, or was Stone Cold the bad guy that was a fan favorite? We did have one. We had one comment here. Kota Ibushi versus Kenny Omega DDT feud wasn't bad either. CM Punk made me love wrestling. I started in 2013. That's awesome. Not a bad start. And I rewatched it since I was born yet, but I like Stone Cold in that feud. See, a lot of people Stone Cold, very few The Rock. And I will say this before we close out the show tonight, that both guys, post their wrestling careers, have not done bad for themselves. The Rock, obviously, one of the most popular actors in the world, has his own brand of, I believe, whiskey or bourbon or whatever. And the XFL, very successful. Stone Cold, his own beer, his own podcast, TV show host. Stone Cold not doing a bad thing for himself either. But Cam, before we get out of here, let everybody know, because all of your socials are on the bottom here. Make sure to head over to Cam's social medias. Check out all the great content he puts out, especially Cam's Wrestling Corner. I will say this. If you want to hear some great content about pro wrestling and I mean this. I'm not just saying this because this man is sitting here on the screen with me. His videos, very entertaining and puts out some great, great points. I will say that. Cam, you put out some great content on your social medias. Definitely, definitely head over to his social medias. Hit that follow button, turn the notification on, check out all the great content Cam puts on his social medias. But Cam, where can everybody find you on the networks here?
You can find me right here every single Sunday night on the table spot, 10 o'clock with this man right here, and with a returning Sean that will be back with us next week. And of course, you can find me here right here on the network every single Wednesday night on my show, The Boom, immediately following AEW Dynamite 10:15 Eastern Standard Time with this man right here and my producer, D. Will Gray. And you can find me on our sister page, Off the Top Media, every single Friday night with Friday Night Review immediately following SmackDown with Scows and with Jamie Rose. And yeah, follow me on my socials. And follow me along on this journey.
Before we get to my socials, real quick, just to put out Sean's socials, make sure to check out Sean's social media. Sean will be back with us on the table spot next week. He is at a indie show right now. So get over to his social medias, hit the follow button, turn the notifications on, check out all his social media stuff. And he will be back here on the table spot next week with us. As far as my social medias are fairly easy. If I can pull mine up here, there we go. My Instagram, my X, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever you want to call X, Twitter, whatever. But Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat is all the same now. It is no more Metalcore Mike 86, Metalcore Mike 1986, Metalcore Mike this, that, and the third. It is just Metal Mike 714 all across the social medias. And please, please add me on Snapchat. Don't be afraid. Snapchat just isn't a personal thing. I put some content on Snapchat too, like announcements for shows that I'm on, shows that happen like Botch and Chair Shot. Sorry for the interruption. I'm not on those shows, but I do attend those shows sometimes. I get asked to come on them. But the shows that I am on is Cam G's The Boom every Wednesday night, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after AEW's Dynamite. You can catch me on Princess Movie Madness every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me on Rivet City Red Zone every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. with Johnny H. I forgot his nickname. I was going to throw his nickname out. Oh, the Candyman. The Candyman himself, Johnny H. Yeah, he goes by the Candyman. I don't know. Something he came up with. But I'm on Rivet City Red Zone with Johnny H every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. We get you ready for the professional football schedule. We talk about college football. We talk about last week's schedule for professional. We talk about injuries. We talk about trades. We talk about everything that goes on with football. Check out Rivet City Red Zone. And you catch me here on the table spot every Sunday night with this man right here sitting next to me. I'm with him on Cam G's The Boom because he is the host of The Boom, and Will Gray is the as Cam mentioned, he is the producer of the show. But you can catch me here on the table spot with Cam and Sean every Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on River City Radio's Twitch, Off Top Media's YouTube channel. Make sure to head over to both, by the way, River City Radio's Twitch and YouTube channel, and Off the Top Media's Twitch and YouTube channel. Hit the follow button, turn the notifications on, check out all the great content going on. We got paying dues and sorry for the interruption, on Mondays. We got nerdy news at 4:20 on Tuesdays, and we got Cam G's Boom on Wednesday night after AEW Dynamite at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Cam, do you have anything for the beautiful people before we get out of here tonight?
No, man. Like I said on the Boom, I love and appreciate everybody that came and stopped by the stream tonight. As I always say on my show, to close on my show, love, peace, and prosperity. And we will see you guys next Sunday.
Yep, and as I always say, be good to each other, love each other, respect each other, take care of each other, and be patient with each other. Everybody, the world is not moving as fast as you think it is, so be patient. Until next time, everybody have a great Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is on Thursday.
It is.
Enjoy Survivor Series on Saturday. Thanksgiving is on Thursday. We'll see y'all next week here on the table spot. Peace.